which war did you serve?
Vietnam.
And what branch of the service were you in?
I was in the Army.
What was your highest rank?
E4.
Ron, were you drafted or did you enlist?
I was drafted
Where were you living at the time?
in Newington, Connecticut.
Were you in school or had you already graduated?
Kind of half and half. was going to school part-time. I was going to Central part-time and didn't have enough credits and got drafted.
Oh. Did you expect to get drafted?
I don't know. I guess it was happening and I was registered, so
Do you recall the date?
that I got inducted June 13th, 1969.
69?
Yes.
Fort Dix, New Jersey.
Can you tell me what that was like? What did you do there? How long were you there? What did they teach you?
Basic training was where they just kind of got you into a routine, physically fit. Went through the normal basic. I think it was 8 or 9 weeks. Physical fitness, M14, weapons, basic hand combat. Just the general basic training that I think all draftees or all recruits go through.
After your basic training, where did you go?
Then I had orders for advanced infantry training. Went to Fort Lewis, Washington.
Do you recall how long that was?
That was 8 or 9 weeks as well, and it was all. I had an 11 Bravo MOS, which was an infantry MOS. So that's we're all training for M16 and weapons and infantry training for operating in the bush.
At that point, did you expect to be going to Vietnam?
I thought it was a high probability that I'd be going there, although everyone did. There was only a handful of us that got orders for Vietnam. Other people went to Germany and Korea.
Do you remember any of your instructors?
Just the drill sergeant Best, I think. His last name was Best. He had those big smoky beer hats, and and I remember his last words when we all got our orders for Vietnam was, "This was tough training, but that it was hopefully we learned, because if we weren't the best, we were coming home in a body bag. So you'd better hopefully hope you got some takeaway from this, so to speak."
Did you go directly from AIT to Vietnam?
I came home for 2 weeks or something like that.
When you went over, how did you go? By way, what road?
I went back through Fort Lewis, Washington. We're on Flying Tiger Airlines and went to Alaska, and I'm not sure if we made one more stop, and then went to Cameron Bay. I think, flew into country.
Was it commercial aircraft or military?
Commercial. It was Flying Tiger Airlines. Yeah.
What was your first impression on landing?
I think everybody thought once they opened the doors, the heat and the smell. It's kind of like, 365 days left.
Do you recall the month and year when you actually landed in Vietnam?
Yes, it was. I think it was like November 1969.
After you landed, where did you go?
We went. I got sent to. Well, then I got assigned to the 101st Airborne, and they sent us through what they called, like a jungle school or a P training, which was like another several days just to get you acclimated to the jungle, the heat, and the environment. And they then, assigned you to a unit from there. So we spent a couple days repelling, doing some ambush exercises, setting up ambushes and, those kinds of things. And again, light training under, to get us ready for, I guess, the real thing kind of stuff.
So when you went, did you go over as an individual and not with a unit?
Correct, yeah.
And then when you got there, they assigned you to a unit?
Right. And then some of the people I went with from here, that I'd gotten drafted and went through advanced infantry training with, they kind of broke us all up. So there was only, like I said, only about a dozen or 13 of us that happened to go through basic and advanced infantry training together. And then that group, we kind of got assigned differently. I didn't have anybody that I served with, so we kind of went to different units. We all went to the 101st. And we were told that when we got out of advanced infantry training, we would either go to the 101st or the 1st Cav is what our assignment was going to be. And we all figured we'd be in the 1st Cav because none of us had gone to jump school at that point. So that was a surprise that we got put in the 101st Airborne.
So did any of the other guys go with you, or were you totally alone?
I was totally alone. We were all with the 101st, but some of them went up north, some of them went to some other battalions, and I was assigned to the 3rd 506, which was, as they're saying, was kind of considered the bastard battalion. It hadn't been with the rest of the brigade. They went over at a different time than the rest of the 101st, the brigade. So we were op-conned to different areas where they're having a lot of conflict and needed support. So I worked with the Big Red 1 or the 1st Division. I worked with the 1st Cav. I worked with the 173rd. We worked with the 4th Division. So where they needed help, we moved around. So I was in a lot of different places throughout the country of Vietnam.
Did you stay with the 101st though the whole year you were there?
Yes.
When they first assigned you, when they had to do some extra training, where did you go for that?
It was in countries, I don't know, some
outpost somewhere?
Outpost they had. All I just, remember is running and going through more weapons training and, again, detail ambushes and, things like that.
After that initial training in country, where did you go?
Then they assigned me to a unit, and I'm trying to think. They moved us on by aircraft. I had to go someplace. I went by a convoy and then an aircraft and dropped us off someplace, and then I got assigned, given my rucksack, my weapons, and whatnot, and then was sent out to a fire base. And then, because at the time the company that I got put with was on fire base duty.
Do you know the name of the fire base?
You can ask that, but I don't know if it was. I don't know if it was LZ Betty or us. I don't recall that.
No.
But we were near this highway, so we were there on fire base for a short period of time, then securing the highway for when convoys came through, and then while we were doing that, you'd go out and ambush at night and stuff like that at the beginning.
When they gave you your rucksack and your weapons, what did you use for a weapon?
I had an M16, but because I was pretty good size, I was deemed the assistant gunner for the 60. So in addition to the M16 and all your ammo and things, you carried an additional 300 to 500 rounds of M60 ammunition. Everybody carried 100 rounds, but as the assistant gunner, you carry 300 to 500 rounds. And your job was to help the person who's carrying this M60. Help them in the sense that if you were laying down fire or whatever, you were help start feeding ammo to them.
What can you tell me about the M16?
It was a pretty good weapon, pretty versatile. It was great when you'd be in a firefight to put on rock and roll because you'd blow through a lot of, lay things down. But the M60 was, was a really versatile, that was a great weapon, So after a period of time, I ended up carrying the 60 for a good period of time, So
That had to be pretty heavy, so that was on top of all your other stuff?
Yeah, well, you didn't carry an M16. So, yeah,
Oh.
I forgot what an M60 weighed, 27 pounds. And, then you'd carry more. You carried a good amount of ammo. And, I used to carry a little more than normal because I just rather have the extra ammunition. So, and I got the 60 after the person who was carrying it that I was assistant to was killed. So that's how I got into carrying the 60
Wow.
kind of stuff.
How long did you stay at that location?
I don't know, because we'd go out on ambush, and then we started doing some combat assaults into different areas in Hump and Labooney. So that was kind of, I don't want to say, wasn't what I considered later on, wasn't real difficult duty because you were, alongside a highway or you were on a fire base, so you had, at night you'd set up an ambush. It wasn't like, when we started making combat assaults, you get dropped off someplace and they tell you we'll see you in 4 or 5 days, hump from here to here, and you're search and destroy, kind of stuff, and look for the enemy. So then I started moving around, and I don't remember all the different places. I remember being in Fayette, Bamboo-Tuit. I'll have to get you all the names of that. When I was there, when I sometimes sent a letter home, my parents had a big map, so they marked different places where I was when they got things from me.
When you were doing the setting up the ambush and going out, can you describe exactly what that would be like? Would you always do ambushes at night?
Yeah, usually that's what you do. So if we were going out on an ambush because we were in a position like, say, along the road or on a fire base, it was a little bit different than if you were out humping the bush. In the bush, setting up an ambush because you'd have to set up at night. So every night was like an ambush. But you would, the sergeant would tell you, you're going on an ambush, go out, I don't know how far out or wherever you're going. And if it's a hot trail, set up some trip flares, put up some claymore mines, and sit there and wait for somebody to come down the trail. And if a trip flare goes off, or if you didn't have trip flares, and smoke them.
How big of a group would go out for these kinds of things?
Well, a squad would go out. So usually a squad, depending. When we were at full strength, there used to be probably 10 guys in a squad. And every squad would have a 60, and and then somebody be carrying a thump gun, and then your rifle people. So we could be anywhere from 8 to 10 of us.
What's a thump gun?
That's M79, like a grenade gun. It shot, didn't throw like hand grenade, but it was that kind of explosive, a grenade, equivalent of a grenade, I guess. M79, I think it's called.
Do you recall any specific incidents when you were setting up ambushes where you came upon Vietnamese?
Oh, yeah.
So it was a pretty regular occurrence?
Sometimes it was, and then what would happen is sometimes you may go a week without any contact, or two, which sometimes wasn't good, because when you didn't have contact, sometimes people would start to get a little lax, and that wasn't a good thing. Everybody had you have to be on your game. You support one another, so it's so everybody was.
Did you stay with the same 10-man squad the whole time?
No, because people went home. That was another, the way that was set up. People would go home after a year. People got killed, it would depend. If you got there the same day as you and I got there on the same day, then chances are we would have been there for a year. But I may get here today, and you've already been there 3 months. So 9 months from now, you were out of there, or something like that. You know what I mean?
So the squad stays together unless somebody's rotating out or somebody's rotating in,
Right.
or somebody gets killed in
Correct.
action.
Right, or wounded or something. Yeah.
After that initial phase, what was your job? Did you go further into the bush, or did you continue doing that for the rest of your tour?
I was in the initial phase was the road garden and the guarding the road and the fire.
Did you do that for like months?
No. That was kind of like to get you out of the field to get a little bit of rest sometimes, to give you a fire base or or the road guard kind of stuff. Otherwise, depending on what the objective was, you were off in the bush being dropped off and searching for enemy, looking to go make contact.
All right, so how was that different? What would you do if that was your mission?
That's what we did every day.
Every single day you would go out in the bush trying to find...
You were there, so they say drop you off here on Main Street and tell you go walk 18 clicks or whatever, and we'll resupply you then and maybe pick you up and move you to another place and drop you off in the bush, I'm saying the woods or the jungle someplace else, and then tell you wherever they, somebody in the rear, I don't know, some general, somebody's trying to figure out where there may be movement or there may be camps. So, and then you'd go through and you'd look, and you'd be hunting for people. Or if you came across a village or, where they had stuff stored, food and stuff like that, you'd burn it down or, destroy it. So it was, kind of thing.
So most of your time was every day out in the bush looking for
the Vietcong or the NBA.
When they would drop you off out there, how long would you stay? Would you come back that same day, or you'd stay out there for days?
You'd stay out there for days. I came to the rear area probably, I don't know. I went on R&R. We had a 24-hour stay. I probably came to a rear area maybe, I don't know, 5 or 6 times in the year that I was there.
And the rest of the time was in the bush?
In the bush, yeah. You'd get clothes thrown out to you, or, sometimes clothes weren't an issue. I mean, if you weren't near a blue line, the clothes you had were the clothes you had. I mean, so, sometimes they would rot on you kind of stuff. I mean, you just, I guess as I've said to my kids, I literally, and not just me, everybody who was a grunt, you lived like a pig. I mean, everything you owned or whatever you had was on your back, and that was it. So it was, when you get resupplied, maybe sometimes you might get mail, you might not, but every 4 to 5 days you'd get resupply. So you'd get water, you'd get sea rations, and then they came out with this LURPs, which were just freeze-dried ones, which were great because you didn't have to hump around as much weight with you. And everybody adapted to their own personal way of doing things. I mean, they could carry, some people drank a lot of water. If you weren't near a blue line, you better carry water. So you'd carry more water. Some people liked eating sea rations. So, but the first thing you'd look, you got a case of sea rations, everybody get a case of sea rations. That was like, I think, 12 meals. So that was 4 or 5 days. So that was all you're getting. So if you didn't want to carry it, you'd destroy it. And, like, who wanted to eat fruitcake? So nobody would eat fruitcake. But, like pound cake in a can or beans and frank were great things, kind of stuff. So that was it. So, but everybody would adapt their own. Some people's rucksacks were pretty heavy. Everybody's rucksacks were heavy because the technology was just, it was an aluminum framed backpack. I mean, you didn't have sleeping bags and crap. You had a poncho liner and a poncho. That was it. So when it was raining out, you were sleeping in the water. You weren't like in a tent. So you lived very, I don't know. You were in the environment. That's, I can remember at night on ambush or sleeping while somebody's sitting from media away, and you're laying there and you're laying in water. That's just the way it is. That's the way it was.
You're talking about blue lines. What does that mean?
A river or a stream or something like that.
Oh.
So if you could get some water out, and not that the water was clean, they gave you, you were issued iodine tablets you'd throw into your canteen, and supposedly that would kill the bacteria. I don't know what it would kill, but, so.
Did you see combat while you were out there?
Oh, yeah.
Do you want to describe any of the incidents? Do you have any memorable incidents when you were out in the bush?
Well, lot of memorable incidents that I guess I don't want to talk about, other than when you transition, and everybody goes through it in a way, shape, or form. It's just you transition from. I think the first firefight I was in, and probably everybody, remind me when I was a little kid playing cowboys and Indians out in the woods, and you're jumping around and stuff like that, and you know, this time you're shooting around for real things. And when I transitioned, I remember this day. That's when I was being the assistant gunner, and the gunner Mike, I don't even know his last name, was there, and there's, we were in a pretty big firefight, and I'm saying, shoot, shoot over, kind of stuff, and he was dead. And that's when I transitioned. That's when I realized that this wasn't a game, and I, said, I'm going to be good at what I do, and it's kill or be killed, and I don't have any plans of coming home in a body bag and a rubber bag. I'm 18,000 miles away, and I don't care what I need to do. I'm doing it. And that was my training, and it wasn't, then I want to say it was sort of, the real game is on. The game is on. It's me or the other person, and it ain't going to be me.
Were there any casualties in your unit?
Yes. I don't know how many, but, there's sometimes we were, from our platoon, which was 30, we were down to maybe 16 or 18 guys and stuff like that, and then it replenish or whatever you call it, so.
What would a typical day be like? So if you're sleeping on your poncho in the water, what time do you get up, and what do you do, and how do you spend the rest of the day?
I guess you never really go to sleep. And when you did get up, you'd take the ambush, you'd pick up, and pick up your stuff, because at night you were always you'd always set up an ambush or a perimeter at night, so it wasn't, so you'd get up in the morning, you'd move to the next spot. I mean, if you were out where you had to go from point A to point B, every day you had to cover so much ground, to get to where they're going to pick you up or resupply you and have you go to give you another objective. So every day, I guess you could say, it was a day of hunting. I mean, you were out looking for trouble. You were out looking for, the bad guys.
If you weren't walking or humping to your next location, you said they'd pick you up. How did they pick you up, by helicopter?
Helicopter, yeah. We became air mobile. 101st was air mobile because I think several years before, I believe it was the 173rd or 182nd, everyone made a jump in Vietnam and, lost almost everybody because, they're jumping into the triple canopy and parachutes hung up. So 101st Airborne, Air Mobile, all of our combat assaults were made in Hueys. And we'd get on and there'd be 6 of us. And, 2 on each side with your feet sticking out the door, and 2 in the center, and the door gunner on either side, and the pilot and co-pilot. And off you'd go.
Were you awarded any medals or citations? I know you were. Do you recall which ones they were?
I have 2 Bronze Stars, an Army Commendation Medal, Air Medal for combat assaults, and then I guess the regular other awards or ribbons you're given, National Defense and Commendation Medals.
Can you tell me what you got the 2 Bronze Stars for?
Meritorious service.
What does that mean?
I guess you did good things. So that's, I don't know what it says. It says that on the orders along with a couple other things, but that's, really, I mean.
Were you awarded them in the field or not until you got back?
I don't know of any. No, they weren't handing them out in the field. Any kind of stuff. It was just kind of, you knew you were up for a citation or kind of thing, depending on what the conflict was. And like when we went into Cambodia, there was a unit citation for that. And it's when there were no U.S. troops in Cambodia or Laos, like you said. But there's a lot of us that were there. So maybe we took a wrong turn someplace. I don't know.
So tell me about Cambodia. Did you know you were over the border?
Oh yeah, yes, yeah. I mean, we were extracted from where I'm not sure where we were, But we were extracted, and they said we got something big going on. So they took the entire battalion went. So they extracted us, and I remember we left to Cambodia from Pleiku, and I remember the name of the operation was called the Fish Hook Operation. This was probably it was the biggest combat assault that I'd ever been on, because normally when we would make a combat assault, it may be a company. So if you got a company, you got a couple, 3 platoons, you may have, maybe 10 birds or something like that. In this case here, there was it was a 60 bird combat assault. So, that's 360 people, got 360 combat, and so we didn't know where we were going. We got brought up to Pleiku, dropped on the landing strip, and we were there for a couple of days, and they started saying, look, okay, you're getting resupplied, here's extra grenades, we tell you, they want you to take extra ammunition, we want to take extra C4, and then he started handing out what was called the law, which was like a bazooka. Started telling us they wanted every squad to have one of these with them. And then we started thinking, well, this isn't going to be good because those are normally used for armor. So we thought, well, okay, wherever we were going, somebody had something more than running around with flip-flops and a hat on, kind of stuff. So we got pretty, supplied, and then we knew they came and said, well, we're going to Cambodia, and that's how we found out. So there's a book that's written 12 Days in May, and that's what it was. It was 12 days in May of 1970 when this operation took place.
So when you were heading out from Pleiku, you had all those birds. You knew it was something big. You didn't know exactly what it was you were.
Yeah, they told us then we're going to Cambodia. I mean, after they put all the stuff out there, go take extra hand grenades, go take extra, kind of stuff. So, then they said we're going to Cambodia, and then that's what I said when he handed out these laws and these like bazookas. And so it was, I remember saying this. It was like being the largest assault. Looking back, because I started off on I think it was on bird number 3 or 4. It was like a big snake in the sky. I mean, kind of stuff. So I mean, you could see it, and everybody. We went in it pretty high because they had the Viet Cong, the NVA, or had 51 caliber machine guns, so they had more, which is a more higher caliber weapon. It wasn't like just some small arm stuff. So
So
when the Hueys took you into Cambodia, they dropped you off and then they left?
Well, yeah, that's what the plan was. The first landing zone we went into was, which was not unusual to have a hot LZ, but it was like they were waiting. They knew we were coming in there, so they had 51 caliber. They shot one of the birds, never got off the ground. When the battalion commander did a VR, went in there, and he got a lot of ground fire and stuff like that. So, but eventually we got in. They were hot LZs, so they were taking fire as we were coming in, which wasn't unusual. But the helicopter, the pilot, and they wanted to get out of there. And I don't blame them because they're sitting ducks. So you'd be throwing your rucksack out and jumping from 10 or 15 feet in the air, and grab your stuff and run. For they set up a perimeter, and that's kind of went in. The first, I don't remember how many. Again, there was 60 birds, but I don't know if we went in, they dropped like 4 or 5 of us at a time, and you just kind of spread out, start laying down fire to start providing more fire, so the next birds coming in would not get shot. So, and they had, before this, they had, the Cobra gunships, and so there's a lot of prep work went through. I guess I'm leaving stuff out, stuff that I didn't see, but it wasn't like all of a sudden he says, well, here you're going to this place. And so I'm sure they did some prep stuff. And there was those Cobras would always be flying around to help give ground support and give support, for helicopter to protect them. Because they're, other than having two M60 machine guns on those Hueys, they had no other armament. And those guys are, pretty brave. The pilots and stuff that went through this, they bring you in there. I mean, yeah, I mean, they got a piece of tin in front of them, so it wasn't much to, for them,
Once they dropped you in there, did you stay there on the ground for the whole 12 days?
Yes, yeah.
During the entire assault? Did you stay in one spot or did you move around?
What we did is, the first, we went in, and I don't recall the exact, went in and secured a perimeter, blew up some, put some bunkers in place, so they could set up a command post there. I think they may have brought some artillery and stuff in there. And so we secured it for a while, I don't know, maybe a couple days until everything was sort of stabilized. And then we went out into the bush on strictly search and destroy. And we just searched and destroyed, because anything in there was fair game. But, their trails were much more, like they had trucks they'd drive, so they had more, their supply lines and stuff were better. They had, sometimes we'd find communication cables that were laid through the woods, and, and massive hooshes that had, hundreds or thousands of pounds of rice and stuff in them that they would use that for resupply when they'd come across the border to Vietnam and go back and kind of thing, or they had farm animals there and things like this here, so, we would level that, and then we'd get into firefights and conflicts, and, we found caches of weapons, they had stored, ammunition, of which things that we, would destroy.
Well, both the United States and the Vietnamese were not supposedly in Cambodia, or Laos for that matter. So we know that we were there a lot. Did you know then at the time that the Vietnamese that had strongholds in both Cambodia and Laos?
Yeah, I mean, even before, that's where they'd run back, get in there, engage in a battle, and go back someplace, and then go across these borders. So, when we were there, I just kind of assumed somebody else would know, because this wasn't like in the dead of night, one helicopter taking off. I mean, this was a pretty big operation. You put there was a battalion of people in there, and there was, different points where this operation was happening, kind of stuff. So, but I guess, that's what somebody figured would be good to do. And I guess it was.
After that 12 days, was that mission a success?
I don't know. I mean, we found a lot of stuff, and we had a lot of, a lot of firefights and body counts and things like this here. I don't know. I don't know if it was success. I mean, did it end the war or the conflict? I don't know. Did it probably do a wake-up call for the NBA? Probably. I mean, it's kind of like, little kids, hit you and run home, and then they're hide behind their parents. So this time here, they hit you and went ran home, and the person followed them home, kind of stuff. So, it's just kind of, so I guess it was impactful. We found a lot of things that were over there. A lot of kind of the disheartening thing is some of the black market U.S. weapons that we found. They were still packed in cosmoline in the cases, which means that either they were stolen or somebody sold them to make some money. We found things that, weapons and things that, we hadn't even seen. Some of the new developmental things. So it was just kind of, when you start picking up your own weapons in Cambodia that are still in the crates in cosmoline, it kind of makes you wonder sometimes, whose side some people are on.
After the 12 days, did you go back over the border to South Vietnam?
Yes. And I don't know where we went. On K maybe, or I don't know. I'll get you some of those details, but and we then went back to life on the other side of going off and up in the boonies and going to some fire bases and looking around for trouble.
Did you sustain any injuries?
Yes. Yeah.
What happened?
Well, I wasn't. Did not receive a Purple Heart, but I got shrapnel. So I mean, just kind of one of those things that wasn't. I guess it wasn't as life threatening. And when you're in a situation over there, like we were, it wasn't like you just say, "Oh, I'm going home." I mean, you relied on one another. So if it was minor things, it was minor things kind of stuff. So so from being ambushed, and kind of stuff.
So were you over in Cambodia when you were hit by shrapnel, or in South Vietnam?
South Vietnam.
Did you have to go to the hospital, or did you stay in the field?
I stayed in the field.
Now I'm going to change gears now and ask you some questions about daily life. I know you've touched on it. While you were over in Vietnam, how'd you stay in touch with your family? Did you stay in touch with your family?
Well, yeah, you write a letter, and I'd get some mail, and that would depend on it was monsoons where they could come in and bring mail, or again, you got resupplied every 4 to 5 days. So if they could bring mail or mail caught up with you, see, we kept moving around an awful lot, so it wasn't like we had, the rest of the 101st was way up in the north, so they had like a central post. I mean, we moved with the, like I said, the Big Red One, the first cap, so we were in a different place, so it may have been more difficult for them to catch up stuff with us. But I can remember getting packages from, my brother's kids who not his kids, but his classroom, the teacher would send over, they'd make a care package, or my parents would send over a care package, or cousins or something like that. And it'd be great because you'd be something in there that everybody would eat. You'd share with everybody. But it was infrequent, but we had that. So that's how you communicated. Then when I went an R&R, I think I made a phone call home. Yeah. So I made
Where did you go for R&R?
Australia.
How long did you have?
7 days.
Yeah. So what was that like?
It was pretty nice.
Did you choose Australia, or did they just send you there?
No, I chose it. I chose it because I wanted to, I guess, be someplace that was like the States, I guess. So, so it was pretty neat.
Did you go with other guys or by yourself?
No, there's, whoever whoever elected to go to Australia and whoever's going on that day, they did process orders, so they probably flew a plane full of us down there and dumped you off, and then, everything. And then you tried to pretend like you were, not in the military or something, I guess, here, and look like a civilian, kind of stuff. So.
Must have been tough trying to go back to the field after the 7 days of
it was.
No war.
But I kind of, I don't know, you didn't think of it. I don't know. You did. I don't know. It was what it was. I don't know. I look at, the people in the military that are now in Afghanistan, Iraq, stuff like this here, and I think it's got to be. I think it's tougher from the perspective of there's such great communications right now that you could the cell phone. I mean you can communicate with your family if you have the and there's more of an opportunity to be able to do this. So I would think that would be tough. That would be tough. And then where they come home now, they'd come home here, home, and then have to go back. That would be very tough. I don't know. I mean, I have a lot of admiration for those people that are doing that now. It's a communication being so rapid, and coming home and then saying, well, I'm getting deployed again in 7 months. And there must have been something to it when they decided to do what they did. I guess it may have been an upgrade from World War II or the Korean War of giving you some place to go, because I have so much more respect for those people in World War II, how they were there for several years, tramping around, freezing their rear ends off. I don't know that I could have taken the cold. I mean, the heat was a pain in the neck, but you know, I'd rather be hot than frostbite. You know, sleeping in a snowbank.
Yeah.
I'd rather sleep in a puddle. You know, if I had a choice. So, communications was tough. I mean, and I remember, I think that when I made the call home, you were on I got to the base, I was going on R&R, and they had what they call Mars stations. I guess that was like, I don't know what they call those people that have like
Shortwave radios.
shortwave radio. So I'd call up, and if I was calling you, I'd say, hello, Eileen, over, and I'd have to release, and you'd then be able to squeeze the thing and say, hello, Don, you know, there'd be a delay, kind of stuff.
So how many times do you think you got to call home by Mars?
I was probably twice,
Oh.
maybe once, but twice I'll hear, say it's twice.
What was the food like? It sounds like you were never very close to a mess hall.
No, we didn't have a mess hall. The only time I ate a mess hall was when I went to the rear, and we did have one time, maybe twice. We had a 24-hour stand down, which meant that if you were in a lot of, stuff, they would pull you back to a rear area, okay, and give you some clean clothes, and you'd be able to shower, and they had all the food you wanted to eat. I mean, like food, like a steak or hamburgers and beer, and so everybody would get drunk and eat, and you had to get in a secured area, so you didn't really have to worry about it. One time the one time I remember, so I'm saying it may have been two, but one time we were on the South China Sea, so we were right on the beach, and there was so we could go in the salt water, so that was great because all the crap, the jungle rot and stuff that we had, salt water was just like a healing thing. So we had, 24 hours, kind of stuff.
So you had a 24-hour stand down an entire year that you were there?
Yeah, that one. I mean, it may have been a second one, but basically, we didn't get to the rear area, very often.
So your entire year was mostly in the field, in the bush?
Yeah, I'd say so, yeah. Most of it probably was, other than, like I said, if we came for a stand down or we came back to a rear area because we were moving someplace else, kind of stuff.
So was it MREs, 3 meals a day?
Sea rations. So we didn't have this. They started coming out with the MREs, the freeze-dried jobs. Those were nice. So sometimes you got a case. Everybody, would get a case of sea rations and a tube of water. And so there's 12 meals in the sea rations. So 3 meals a day, that would mean 4 days. So that's what you'd get. And then when they started having those LURPs, or I guess we call them LURPs, the freeze-dried stuff, you may, get, a couple of those, which really lightens your load, and then you just take some water and you heat it up with C4 and pour it in there and, steam everything or whatever.
Did you have enough supplies, ammunition, clothing? Were there any shortages? Did you have everything you need?
Well, we didn't have clothes. I mean, you didn't carry around clothes. I mean, I can tell you this. I think
you didn't carry a change of clothes at all?
No.
So you just stayed for how long?
We carried a couple pairs of socks. Yeah, I mean, I tell you, your clothes would you'd go past the smell type thing. I mean, if you right now when you sweat and you smell, pretty soon the smell stops, like kind of stuff. I mean, you're just the clothes were just. That's what they were. So sometimes, again, if it was an area where they may kick out some clean clothes every in a month or weeks. It would depend. But you didn't carry any clean clothes. You carry socks with you. I always kept a couple pairs of socks because I don't know why they were wet anyways. But that's what you do. So I mean, so your food, yeah, you'd get food, and there were no clean clothes. I think. When I went to Vietnam, I was issued, 4 pairs or sets of jungle fatigues or something like that. They were in my duffel bag in a container somewhere in the rear, because when you went out to the field, you had your one new pair that you had on it. So when you did get new clothes, it wasn't yours. Mine could have your name on it. Mine could say, kind of stuff. So it didn't make a difference. And you just sort of pick something that fit. Sometimes you look like Gomer Pyle with the sleeves sticking up or whatever, So, you know, you have it most of the time. You had a T-shirt on. That was it. You know, and you have a, you weren't carrying you didn't have field jackets and stuff like that. So you had a, you know, the fatigue you may carry, but it was pretty warm. So, you know.
Did you always have enough ammunition?
Oh yeah, we are. Well, yeah. I mean, sometimes we're in some firefights where we were running out of ammunition, but somehow they figured out how to get it in there. You know,
Yeah.
this kind of stuff. So, and most of us, you carry more than somebody said. Well, you only carry 10 clips of this. You got to be a dope to do that. I'd rather carry ammunition than carry other stuff. I mean, I like carrying hand grenades, so I always carried a lot of hand grenades. I always carried, most people carry 2 or 3. I probably had 20. So I like hand grenades.
How did you handle the stress? That had to be pretty stressful being out in the jungle like that for almost a whole year.
It's a good question. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I don't have an answer for that. You just did what you had to do. That was my straw that I drawn, and that was it. I don't know. I don't know how you do that. But you do. I mean, the human body is a pretty wonderful thing. I mean, when somebody's trying to kill you, you can run like a deer, jump like a deer. You can do all kinds of stuff. I mean, you see these things where people pick up a car and somebody it just, I don't know. I don't have any answer to that. Sometimes you ask yourself, like, how come, you're here and you're doing what you're doing, and, you look at, but I just have a different, I don't know, perspective on it. I always just said, if I got out of there alive, any day my feet hit the ground and I had my health, my family, and, guy upstairs or gal upstairs, they're looking out over you. That's, the rest of this stuff is, bullshit.
Did you do anything special for good luck?
No, I don't think so. I had a medal that my mother had given me that I always wore, and I don't know, I lost it someplace, which bothers me. And actually, so I didn't have any good luck charms, but you just.
When the few amounts of times where you had time off, what did you do in your downtime? Did you have any time in between where you're out in the field that you have some downtime?
Oh yeah, when you took a break, if you're walking pretty right, sit down, okay, you can stop for 5 minutes, smoke a cigarette, drink some water, and think about what could have been. I don't know. You get some pretty close bonding relationships with these people you're with. And the sad part is, like I said, I don't remember people's last names because of the way the things rotated. You may have been with somebody there for a month, and then next thing you know is they're shipped someplace else, or they may have been there for a year, kind of thing. So it's kind of, it's it was just kind of a different thing. It's like I can remember, probably the first or second ambush I ever went out. It was Thanksgiving, or maybe it's Christmas Eve. I don't remember. And being naive to think that, I remember the sergeant saying, get your squad and going out on an ambush. I said, on an ambush? I said, yeah. I remember. This was kind of funny. I thought it was, ceasefire. He says, it's Christmas Eve. I thought there was supposed to be a ceasefire. It is a ceasefire. Don't cease fire till everybody's dead. If you go out there in an ambush, that's a ceasefire. Kind of thing. It's like, okay. So, I mean, it's just, so you just, those things like that, you think of it and you say, okay, so it was downtime, or wasn't downtime. Again, if you were down, it was an opportunity for everybody to be down. I mean, like, your life was be at risk,
Wow. Did you get to see any USO shows while you were over there?
No. The one time I'm saying when we were in the rear, it wasn't a USO show. There was some entertainment there. Maybe not a stand out. Yeah, maybe not that stand down 24-hour home, but they had people singing and stuff like that. But it wasn't like, like Bob Hope? No.
You were
That would
done
be
by
a USO. That would be a USO show. Yeah.
Did you stay in touch with any of the guys from your unit that you made friends with?
I don't know. I mean, I lost touch with them. The one guy who's probably closest to, it's weird, I thought that was his picture right there. And I saw him, I think it was Eddie Bishop, who, got killed shortly afterwards, And then a couple other people, they're dead now. They died, Not Eddie died in Vietnam. I guess he was an MIA or POW for a while. We didn't know. So no, I'm trying to, and I regret that because I didn't have, you didn't have anybody's names or address. Everybody had a nickname. You may say, they would call me Dooch. And some guy was called Mississippi. Somebody was called, hey, Schnauzer Bear. So everybody, so you really didn't. And that's weird. And I really, I really wish that I had or could reach out to some of them. I mean, one guy I remember I got to be really closely with. He was from Mississippi, and his name was Mississippi. And I tried locating him. His name was Abner Simmons or something like that, but I haven't been able to find him, and stuff. And and the guy from Pennsylvania. So no, I guess that's a roundabout way of telling you no. Huh?
Yeah. Have you had any reunions?
None that I've gone to. I belong to the, the 3rd or 506. They have reunions yearly, and I get newsletters and stuff like that from them. And this guy Jerry Berry, who wrote a book 12 Days in May. I didn't know him, but I'm saying so. They have a reunion, like in Nevada or places. But you know what? I don't know that I'd know anybody. That may sound stupid, but so it's not like I can pick up a roster and,
Yeah.
kind of stuff, I mean, I can't even find, medical records when I was in Vietnam, kind of stuff, I mean, everything, again, the technology's changed. Everything was on paper, so, and things happen, and we moved a lot, so I don't know how, I mean, if you think about, okay, today you're in this office here, and then tomorrow they tell you, look, you're going over to the School of Engineering, pick this stuff up and go move over there, and 2 months from now you're going to be with I don't know who, you're going to move to Yukon or something like this. You're going to move to Yukon, and you pick everything up and you move there, and then they tell you to move. 2 months later, what would you do? You'd be launching some of the stuff that's here. You're not going to carry all this junk with you. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Do
you recall your last day in the field in Vietnam?
Yeah. The exact not the last day. I remember I was in a rear area and they kind of went and did it, volunteered sort of to go do an ambush with some lurks. We went out and anyways. So then
you volunteered for that?
Yeah, I was helping them, kind of thing.
You knew you were on short time. You were due to go home.
Yeah, I was trying to help them, kind of stuff. So they need somebody to go, just up the road with them, kind of stuff. So I was worried then, but I had it was kind of I don't know. So once they took all your weapons away, then you really felt vulnerable, and I brought a sidearm home with me that I got while I was there, and it was a Chicom, a Chinese like a sidearm. So I had that with me. So I did have something. And, I mean, I could just imagine now somebody just carrying that home, but that wouldn't happen. I mean, I had papers for it, but so you felt more vulnerable. The times that I did, those times that we were in the rear area, nobody liked to be in the rear area because, there was just, you felt that this is my opinion, the enemy knew where you were, and some of the guys that were in the rear area or people that were in the rear area may not have been, as aware of things as they should have been. I guess I'll leave it at that. So, it wasn't a big treat to come to the rear area because the guys that were in the bunkers in some of those areas, unless you knew that they were your buddies, your line trooper when you were in the rear area, one of where your battalion was, so.
So how long did you spend in the rear before you actually flew out of Vietnam? You talk like a week or 2 weeks?
Yeah, probably a week. Probably was. And you got to get some clean clothes. You got to eat some real food. Kind of stuff. And then I'm trying to think where. Yeah, then you flew out of there. I don't know if I came back on commercial airline or what. But
again, did you fly out as an individual the same way you flew in? Or was there a bunch of you leaving at the same time?
Well, there's people who were getting out of country at the same time, but
not from your unit.
Not from my unit. Kind of stuff. And I think they intentionally staggered it so that you never had a whole new group of new people. You had some people that were seasoned, sort of stuff. They had some alligator bites in their butt. Kind of stuff.
Where did you fly out of?
I think it was Cameron, back to. I don't know if I went back to Alaska again, but I got deroast out of Fort Lewis, Washington. That's where we got discharged from.
Did you get discharged right away when you got back and landed?
Yeah, I did, because what I did when I was in Vietnam, I extended. You see, if you came back to the States with less than 6 months active duty, you got discharged, and I did at that point in time. You're right. I feel like I was on borrowed time because that was 1969, and Nixon was starting drops, what they call it, drops. So instead of giving you a 1 year tour, they were reducing the time to like 11 months or 10 months and 28 days or something like that. So that's right. I did feel like I was pressing my luck then. So I had signed the papers and said, because I decided that I was not going to be a career person. So I had signed papers to extend my tour. So I actually spent 13 months and 6 days in country in Vietnam. So when some of the people I did go there with took advantage of these drops and went home, I was like, oh, this is, I better have I didn't have a rabbit's foot. But this is not good. Because now I could have been home after 11 months or 10 months and some days, kind of stuff, So I spent 13 months and 6 days. So I came back. I had less than 6 months active duty. I was supposed to go to Fort Hood. Originally, I would have gone to Fort Hood, Texas, as a drill instructor, is what it said. But if you came back to the country with less than 6 months, they didn't relocate you because they knew you had something like at least 45 days to leave. They'd get you in a job. You just learn to be, ho, and then you'd be getting out.
Wow.
So
when they discharged you at Fort Lewis, did you just go immediately home to Connecticut?
Yes.
How did you get there, military or civilian?
Civilian. That was pretty difficult because that was around December 19th or something like that when I got...
December?
Yeah, December.
Like near Christmas?
Yeah. So getting flights was terrible. They gave you they gave you some cash. But you had to get a flight. So I remember having to go from Seattle to California to Chicago to Charlotte to Newark. And, it was just like kind of like... And then, and then my brother Rich picked me up.
What was it like flying into Fort Lewis after being not only being in Vietnam, but being in the bush basically for a year and coming back to civilization? What was that like for you?
Well, when you reached terra firma in the United States, it was great. It was pretty scary. Everybody was like really worried. At least my thoughts as I'm getting ready to take off from Vietnam, you're going on the runway and you're thinking, some SOB is going to be down there in a rice paddy and shoot through the bottom of this, I don't know, it was a 707 or what it was, and I'm going to get taken out after all of this. Well, okay, so then you clear that area, you're out over the South China Sea, and then, it wraps up and, you're out of small arms fire. And then you're like, whew, feeling good about it. And then it's just kind of like, okay,
What was your homecoming like?
Homecoming. Here in the States?
Yes.
How about like people spitting on you? People, you sit down in a chair and people get up, walk away from you. Name calling, people that I was getting out with, that had, clothes, gotten some clothes and stuff like that. Take their uniforms off, throw them in a garbage pail so that they wouldn't be, it was not great. It was not great.
Did you wear your uniform home across country?
Yeah. And I had my sidearm with me, so it was pretty. And I hadn't thought about that. But I'm saying, so here I was getting discharged, and I had a captured weapon with me that you're carrying. I don't think I had. I mean, they may have taken the ammunition away from me. I don't remember. Yeah, probably did. So,
what did you do in the first couple weeks home?
Probably rested a lot. I can remember, coming home and going to bed and, like just sleeping in a bed and, feeling the sense of my parents walking in and out of the room, looking at me, and I probably just slept for a couple of days. I don't know. I don't remember. So, kind of stuff. So.
Did you then go back to school or get a job?
Well, I went back, tried to go back to work where I was working because when I got drafted, I was working and going to school part time. Yeah, I guess I left that out. Going part time, and so I went to go back to work. And at first they didn't have, a job doing what I was doing, and finally they gave me a job, here in Britain, at Stanley. And then I went back to school while I was working. I worked full time, went to school nights when I was working days.
Did you go to school on a GI Bill?
I went on a rehab plan. So yes, I came to Central, and then I went transferred out to another school, but I ended up coming back to Central. I ended up graduating from Central with a bachelor's in industrial technology. It took me 10 years, but I finished it. Then I went on to grad school and, got a master's and stuff,
You got a master's degree also?
Yes.
From Central?
No, from Rensselaer.
And what did you do for a career?
I worked at Stanley Works for 31 years and then kind of got transitioned out of there. Some changes they made, and it was a great company. I learned an awful lot, and when it was well run, nice company. And then I went to work in the private equity world, working in manufacturing and doing stuff in aerospace and defense. So I kind of stuff.
Don, how would you say your military experience influenced your thinking about war or about the military in general?
My military experience is hard or difficult or whatever, went on, taught me an awful lot about myself. And I attribute that to whatever success I have and have had and been able to, do. I mean, I learned an awful lot. And and if you just break things down to some simple, tasks and stuff like that. So I'm pretty proud of being in the military. I'm happy that I served. I'd do it again, kind of stuff, and hopefully I'd be as lucky as I am. But it just, it's just, a good, realization for me. And so I'm pretty fortunate.
Did you join any veterans organizations?
Yeah, I'm a life member of the VFW. I'm a life member of Disabled American Veterans. Until I started working again here, I was working part-time for the DAV in Newington Veterans Hospital, driving vets their doctor's appointments and stuff like that. And when I finish working, I'll go back and do that again because I enjoyed it. It was a good release for me, kind of stuff. I felt like I was helping So I would like to do that again. Unfortunately, I'm back working kind of full time, doing something I enjoy because it's, I work for the Connecticut Center for Advanced Technology, so I do a lot of stuff that, I get involved with the military. We do things for the Air Force, and, and I get the, so,
How would you say your military service affected your life?
it gave me an appreciation for life. Again, I thought, if I get out of there alive, and stuff, it gave me, an appreciation for the things we have that a lot of people don't appreciate. I mean, the freedoms we have here are just, people take it for granted. I mean, kind of thing. So, I try to be thankful for everything I have.
What advice would you give your children if they wanted to join the military?
Well, I tell them they better pay attention to what they're learning, and maybe not have an infantry career. And if they did, they did. But I tell them that you just better be the best at whatever you're doing. You better apply yourself, because it's when you get into those situations where it's life or death, you better have your house in order. Kind of thing. So it isn't like I wouldn't say some people say it's a bad thing. I don't know how to rush out. I don't know how to say go Joey. I mean, in today's day and age, it's not a bad job for people to have. You can learn an awful lot. I mean, it just. I remember when I came back, and saying about, and I didn't have a job, so I went down to see if I can do unemployment, and the lady telling me, well, you learned skills in the service, so you should be applying those. And I said, well, I'm a professional killer. They paid me to kill, kind of stuff. So do you have any jobs for that? Which kind of put her into heart attack year or whatever you call it. But, so, I did, you just, you had to learn. You just, you do the best. You always need to do the best you can do.
Don, is there anything that we haven't covered, or any memorable experiences or events that we haven't talked about that you would like to add?
Well, other than that, that sticks in my mind about going on an ambush on Thanksgiving. And there were no holidays, so you didn't know that, and you got to be pretty close with people because they were people you lived and died with. So. So it wasn't a bad time. I mean, maybe the situation wasn't the greatest, but it was not like a bad time. I mean, you get out of things what you put into them. I guess,
Don, I'd like to thank you for your service to our country and for sharing your experience with us.
Thank you.